Baba, it was so great to have you in studio and so excited to talk about your brand new project, Epokothweni. Before we get into the details of this project, tell me a bit about yourself and your background that brought us here today.
Thank you. So I'm originally from what used to be known as the Transkei, which is now part of the Eastern Cape. Born and raised there, educated there partly, and experienced in financial services in the areas of tax, investment management, and banking. And really reached a stage in my life where I realized that there is so much experience and knowledge that I have, particularly around a personal area of interest for me, personal financial stewardship, that I've been exposed through my studies, my work, and I'm continuing to study. That is just not available in the language of my people, or my mother tongue is Xhosa. So this really comes out of a desire to make those concepts and those forms of knowledge about personal financial stewardship and the markets, how the financial markets work, and a little bit of economics, just the desire to have all of those things communicated, broken down, explained in isiXhosa.
That's great. So, if you can tell us a little bit about who is Babalwa, what is her background, how long she's been in the spaces that she's been in that got us to where we are today.
So I've been a professional since 2001 in the areas of taxation, investment management, and more recently banking. So I've been trained up to master's level, and I still continue to enhance my education in the areas touching personal financial stewardship, because there's knowledge that wasn't available before, that has since evolved, which is part of the body of knowledge that I would want to make available in my mother tongue, and make the concepts less complicated, with the view of enhancing the knowledge of Xhosa language speakers, and ultimately growing wealth.
Super exciting. I think it's such an important initiative that you've undertaken here. Tell me a bit about the name Epokothweni. And I know that our non-Xhosa speaking listeners may struggle with the translation. So if I understand correctly, that means in your pocket. Tell us about how you came up with this name, why you chose this name, and what it essentially means in this initiative.
So something that's in your pocket is something that is got somewhat of a confidentiality. It's got somewhat of a don't get into my pocket. It's a taboo. It's only for me, like holding your cards close. And so in thinking about how to disseminate knowledge around personal financial stewardship, I wanted to break down some of that taboo, and enable people through a platform to take away the knowledge and the skills and the gems really from the conversation, to take them away and think and actually as individuals get inside their own pockets. Because it's not a matter of is the pocket empty or full, which I think is just a very binary way of understanding these things, because there's a lot that happens in between the pocket being empty and the pocket being full. It doesn't just get to that state. There's almost a journey in between. And so hopefully the conversation that we will surface in Epokothweni will help individuals in the in-between, in making sure, for example, that where pockets are leaking, that we reverse that. Individuals are able to reverse that and hopefully get to a point where the pockets are growing. So it's to remove the taboo around and the confidentiality, obviously where it's appropriate. By that I mean we are not going to be getting to give you financial advice as the law defines it, because that's something that you do away from the public eye. You do it with your advisor or your financial planner. However, in these conversations, we hopefully give you tools to better or more intelligently engage in that space, having thought about, having been enlightened and enhanced your knowledge about these matters.
I like the word that you've used, Babala, in terms of personal financial stewardship. So, Epokothweni is not about giving financial advice, but rather about equipping people to take ownership and stewardship and understanding of things that impact their pockets. Can you elaborate on that?
So there's a lot of things, obviously, that impact your pocket. If our Reserve Bank today, for example, lowers interest rate, what that translates to for your pocket is that if you've got debt, it's probably a little bit cheaper to finance that debt. Therefore, you could either, if you are in the market for buying a home, that's one of the factors, for example, that could say that you could probably afford that home a little bit better than if the interest rates were higher. I'm just making an example. If you have people that you owe, the interest rates that they've quoted you, again, it might be a little bit cheaper to repay them faster when the interest rates are lower. So those are some of the things that impact your pocket. Other things in the economic data that gets released also affects your pocket, because some of these things translates, for example, into the price of food or into the price of petrol. All of those being things that translate into your pocket. What is happening? Is your pocket growing? Is your pocket diminishing? Other things that affect your pocket is whether you are saving, whether you are investing. Are there funds available for a rainy day, for the short term, for the longer term? So that's what I mean by impact on your pocket. Those are the things that I hope to share in a much more accessible manner because of the language, and give our listeners the ability to take away those conversations, gems from those conversations, and reflect, and then with the knowledge that that they've obtained from listening to the podcast, then make appropriate changes.
And I love that you are focusing on this financial education and these conversations happening in your mother tongue, in isiXhosa. And I'm curious to know, how do we ensure that people who are really hungry for this knowledge and who could learn so much from these conversations, but who aren't Xhosa speaking, could potentially still join the conversation and benefit?
So I'm educated in English. isiXhosa is my mother tongue. Were I able to speak the other South African official languages at least, I would make the podcast at a drop of a hat available in those languages too. And it's something that I think applies not just to personal financial stewardship. I think the sciences, engineering, the arts, all of these areas of life need to be made available in the language of our people, in the languages of our people. And so I would, first of all, hope that similar professionals to me, who are skilled, educated, and trained, who can add to the conversation in the spaces of influence where they have access in terms of their languages, that we could have ways to collaborate. That's the first thing. And then secondly, in our Epokothweni Facebook page and Instagram page, those are the platforms we've got for now. Listeners are very welcome to comment and inbox, not only in isiXhosa, but English as well. And yes, it's limited to those two, because those two are the ones that I understand well enough to carry on the conversation and well enough to enhance the knowledge. So that's how we include everybody else who's not Xhosa speaking. However, as they say, charity does start at home. I did feel like this is the place that I'm most proficient in isiXhosa. This is the place where I feel the most strongly. And so this is where I wanted to start.
Fantastic. And you mentioned Facebook and Instagram. Can you let us know where we can get hold of your podcast and your content? Where will these conversations be taking place?
So we're just starting out. They will ultimately be content on most of the platforms that everybody's familiar with. But for now, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook. The podcast will be hosted on Google Podcasts. And next, we're looking at getting into Apple Podcasts as well. So that's where you'll be able to get hold of Epokothweni, and we'll share further details.